All right, we have Treshia Coleman here. Treshia, thank you for coming on. This is Burn the Ship. This is an entrepreneur podcast. We're out of Atlanta, Georgia. We are at Creed 63 in Birmingham, Alabama. It's a co-working space, tech incubator space. And Treshia owns two different companies. One is Coleman Company, and it is a consulting company for NPOs, restaurant food industry, correct?
Yes, correct.
Cool. Tell me a little bit more about that, and then we'll get into the picnic company.
Well, what I do is I help primarily women, people of color, start their own businesses. So all my clients are nonprofit. They founded a nonprofit, or they want to do a hair oil business, or they want to do. I have one client that does diversity inclusion workshops, and I just help them set up their LLCs and help them understand the language and the game of money so they can set up their companies where they can actually make money.
Yep.
And they can actually I don't know if y'all are familiar with Robert Kiyosaki and the four
Sure.
quadrants for them to move to the right side of the quadrant. So that's what I kind of consult my clients.
It's one of my
Trying to
favorite
shift their
books,
mindsets.
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, actually, when I moved here to Birmingham, I'm not originally from here. My dad was in the military. He's from here. My husband's from here. One of our pastor's brother gave me the book, like when we first moved here. He was like, "You're an accountant. I think this would be important to you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then years later, I was like, everything works for a reason. Things happen haphazardly for a reason.
Yes.
So, yeah, so I read that, and then I started reading his other books, and we have the cash flow game at home, and I'm just trying to teach my kids, like, learn the game of money and not to be an employee.
Well, so it's not taught in school,
It's not.
right? So
And that's by design, but
what's not taught in school? What's not taught in school is, back in the day when checks were a big thing, it was how to balance your checkbook, and it's like one of the most important things. Reading for us it's Bell South bill, right? An actual bill that you get in the mail, and it's not taught. And if it's not taught to your parents, it's a passed down, it's a learned trade.
Correct.
What's also is a learned thing is not doing it.
correct.
Right? So the education at home of the game of money and the game of bills and the game of this is looking at it, doing it, pulling up an app and actually every day or every other day looking at your transactions, because you might have some transactions that you didn't do.
Correct.
And it happens all the time. We're in the credit card processing business, so we understand it.
Gotcha.
So it's important for the kids to learn that, and I think it's so crazy that common sense practice of doing that stuff is not taught in the schools.
Correct.
And it should be taught in the middle schools. Not high school, started at middle school.
It really should be taught in elementary
Yeah.
school. Like, that's what everybody asks me. They're like, I'm a mother of three. My eldest just started college, and I have a 5 and a 6-year-old. And so they're like, how do you do all these things that you do and be a mother, and like, where do you find the time? And I tell them, children imitate what they see you doing. So if you are an entrepreneur and you're always on the grind and like I say, now I understand why I became an accountant, because I didn't grow up. My parents, I don't want to say they weren't financially literate, but they don't understand business.
Sure.
And so I know my calling is to be an entrepreneur, and the only way I was gonna fall into that line of work or that career is to have became an accountant, because numbers tell a story, and you can read how companies doing. You know how to tell your story that's attractive to investors. Once you understand the language of money, like once you understand how to tell that story.
Well, you said it. Financial literacy is like, there's levels of it, right? It's not like this person doesn't know anything about it, but there's levels of it. You can keep learning about it. Like, surprise, you can keep learning about things.
Yes.
But my wife's a teacher, 17 years, and she always says, kids really yearn for discipline. They want that. And we're talking about behavior discipline as well as scholastic discipline, right? So they really want that.
And financial discipline.
They want, of course, but they want that.
Yeah.
But they're going to push the limits, and you gotta go, hey, this is where we are. This is what we're doing.
I agree with you 1,000%. Like, I grew up with no rules.
Yeah.
And I said, I didn't think y'all loved me because y'all didn't tell me, like, be in the house by this time, or you can't go here, you can't do there. My mom, her thing was, as long as you tell me where you are, I'm fine, And I'm like, all my friends are on punishment. Why don't you ever punish me?
Oh, gosh.
And I told her when I got older, I was like, I really wanted those rules. Like, that to me signified that you cared where I was and what I was doing. Now that I'm a grown adult, it's like, oh, okay, thank y'all for not being so strict. I'd have been kind of crazy if,
Sure.
if I had strict parents.
Sure. But look, you some people won't be there.
Yeah.
Some people they need the discipline. They need that line. You can't cross this line.
That's what my mom said. My sister needed that. She said she needed that. I knew what type of children I had. And now that I have 3 of my own, I'm like, okay, I know who's going to be the thorn in my side. And I'm grateful for my eldest. She is a godsend, but those little two.
The little ones, huh?
My youngest, I think she came back as somebody else. Like she's like 45 and she's only 5 years old. She's just so grown. It makes no sense. But they play picnic.
Yeah.
You know, and then when I ran for office about 15 years ago, my eldest, she used to play city council.
Cool.
So like that's why I tell everybody, your children are going to imitate what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you on that quest to keep learning, like you said, your children will follow your footsteps. And my whole, I say as a mother, as a Black woman, my goal, my job is to keep creating opportunities, whether they take them. And these are all children, not just my children. Whether they go down those lanes or not, they're available.
Sure.
Because like when I was their age, those paths weren't available to me. You know, so that's one of the reasons why I do what I do.
That's awesome. Tell me about the picnic business. Sounds exciting.
So I say in 2020, for my anniversary, I did a indoor picnic for my wedding anniversary. And then I started seeing them on Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. And I was like, I could do that. And then a lot of the restaurants, especially here in Birmingham, everything got locked down. And then when the restaurants reopened, they were like, I was seeing different groups that I'm in. Order curbside. And I started realizing like all the restaurant owners, especially like the Black-owned businesses, nobody was saying order curbside for them. So I also have a directory. So I was interviewing them. And then I was like, well, what can I actually do to make sure they get money?
Yeah, sales.
And so I was like, why don't I do the food tour? So before I had my last child, I was starting a food tour business. It was going to be walk to each place.
Of course.
And so I said, well, how can I do this food tour business where people actually don't have to go inside and sit down because restaurants were only allowing you to come pick up your order. And so I decided to do scavenger hunts. So you get a clue. I text it to them. They get a clue, and then they go to the restaurant, then they go to attraction, they go to another restaurant, then they go to another attraction, go to another restaurant, then they end in an attraction. And then they get the time, and I put them on my website.
Nice.
And so I want to start doing races where like I get teams of like 10 teams of 4 people, and they race around an area. Getting the restaurants to understand that concept has been a little difficult, but I believe it's going to happen. So you'll start seeing people run around Birmingham soon.
There you go. That's awesome. I've done one food tour. Have you ever done a food tour?
I've done a food tour, yeah.
They're cool. Yeah, but I did it in Italy, which was incredible. You know?
That's on my bucket list for me to go to a foreign country and do all the food tours.
Well, I mean, Italy's Italy. So
yes,
it's food tour. You have to do a food tour in Italy. You know?
Definitely.
And, you know, coffee's different in Italy. It's good. You know, it's where it was. Cappuccino is Italian, right? So,
okay, that's on the bucket list.
Yeah, you got to do that.
Cappuccino in Italy.
That's right, and the food tour cheese and the pastas. And the thing is it's different because it's not as heavy. You know, spaghetti in America, especially in the South, it's heavy.
Process.
It's I mean, I was born and raised in the South, so we have heavy foods, gravy, and but there. The pasta is not as heavy, and the sauces are not as heavy, so you eat it and you're not like bogged down. It's different.
Just a
pizzas are
experience.
super thin that you can eat. You know, it's like eating air. You know, it's not like the thick pizzas that we have here, the American pizzas that we have.
Breakfast this morning.
See, so you're the picnic lady. You can do this. We can get through this.
Yes.
Tell me so number one, the picnic business was built in your brain in COVID, right?
Yes.
Which is awesome. So you're thinking outside the box of how can I help the business, how can I help me, and then how can I help the public? So it's win-win situation.
And then something that people are going to always do is kind of recession-proof.
Sure.
And I was looking for that at that time.
Tell me about the struggles of starting that business and how you got over them.
Just visibility for people to know that you're doing it, and then like it's like as soon as I'm not gonna say everybody was doing it, but it's kind of like when you buy a new car, you start seeing the same model everywhere. And as soon as I launched, I don't know if y'all familiar with Beham now. They did a feature of picnic areas, picnic businesses, and there was like 5 or 6 other ones, and I was like, I had no clue these were even operating. Yeah. Like I did a Google search, and I was like, okay, there's not any really around here. And as soon as I launched, I started seeing everybody else was kind of launching, and for people like here just didn't understand what it was. Yeah. Like I called the city and I was like, hey, what license do I need for this? And they were like,
what is it?
Yeah. So just getting people here in Birmingham to understand what it is and to be able for them to see it. Yeah. That was a challenge because I said my eldest just went to college, but our house is crowded. Sure. So and then certain parks you have to have a permit for, and then certain outside areas, you just don't want people looking at you weird or harassing you or asking you,
what are you doing? Eating a burger?
Yeah, and just the overall labor that it takes. Yeah. Because I pull a table and it's made out of real wood.
Yeah. You didn't get the Costco plastic table, did you?
I did not. It's a whole luxury setup. And setting that up, especially if it's unpaid, just a mock one, just to show people, it's a lot of work that goes into it.
Yeah, for sure.
So just building the name recognition and the visibility and for people to understand what it is, and then having them learn how to book. Yeah, that's been a difficulty. But as far as people wanting it, once they understand it, it's been a breeze, that part.
Well, it's kind of eye opening when you, like you said, the car thing. Once you buy a car, you see all the cars. You start a business, you're like, oh, I have more competition than I thought. But the thing is Birmingham's a big enough market to have 10 picnic companies, or maybe 15, because you're not going to get, you're not going to get all the business.
Right.
So
that's why I say it's enough money.
Don't let it deter. Yes, don't let it deter you. Yeah. Competition's good. Number one, it's good for the consumer, and it's good for you because you better be mentally ready to bust it out if you find you have that much competition.
And it helps you craft how to better communicate. Sure. Like I'm a part of several different picnic businesses, Facebook groups. Right. And hearing their challenges and hearing how they craft their ads. It's like, oh, I would have never thought to do that. Yeah. Or I never would have thought to do this type of market. Like micro weddings. I would have never thought that. I saw it in a group. And I was like, that's, some
I've
people
never heard of a micro wedding.
Yeah, some people don't want big extravagant weddings. Yeah. They, you can have your wedding.
15 people there.
Yeah. You can have a picnic set up, especially if you live near a beach. And I'm from Virginia Beach, so my mom said, "You're missing so much money. You need to come back home." And I'm like, "Chill. I'll be there, but let me, like you said, I got to conquer Birmingham market first." Yeah. And so, you can have the reverend or magistrate or whoever the officiant do the wedding, and
you don't have to do that. You can do it yourself. You can go get. He actually married one of his friends. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can go on and get your own license.
Shoot, I need to do that.
Yeah, I got ordained.
He got ordained, yeah. So tell him where you went.
I just Googled it. It's like getordainednow.com or something.
Oh, shoot. Let me do that. I can add that. I can marry you, too.
But you said something a second ago where a lot of people might be timid or scared to do this, but call your competition. Yeah. You'll be surprised at how much they're going to help you out. And if they don't, call the next competition. Right. You know what I mean? And go through their hardships and your hardships with each other, and you're probably going to be able to help each other out. And if they want to not do it anymore at some point, right, then you can get their clientele, and they're because y'all have created this relationship. Hey, I'm going to get out of this business. I'm going to get in this. Great. Well, would you be willing to sell it? Sell it to me, or sell me your client list and all that, so they can make some money. A lot of people don't make money getting out of a business, right? But if you could make a little bit, that'd be nice.
Or at least all that you poured into it, get it back. Yeah, see, in those groups, a lot of women are like, "Oh, this isn't for me. I want to go back doing this." And so they're selling all their inventory, and so you're like, "Yeah, let me get that."
Yeah, an old mentor of mine said, when a very wealthy person dies, you go to their funeral and they'll be like, 10 financial advisors there that knew the person, and then 10 accountants, CPAs that knew the person. Was like, because if that guy, if that person, you know, if a financial advisor successful passes away, or a CPA passes away, their competition is there, because they're like, I'm gonna get that client. I'm gonna get these clients. All these clients are gonna be coming to this person's funeral, and I'm gonna get them. That's funny. That's funny. So now you're thinking about it. Now you're thinking about it. So what
yeah, you planted a seed in my head, like,
Crashing funerals. Crashing funerals. Yeah. So tell us how to get a hold of you.
Yes.
Tell us some things that maybe our audience and our listeners could how to get a hold of you, and then how to use your products.
Okay, so I'm on like all social medias.
Okay.
I don't tweet. I have a Twitter page for the picnic business and personal, but I don't tweet, so don't look for me on Twitter. But Instagram, MCFT Picnics, Facebook, MCFT Picnics. I have a Coleman Company page. Personal page is public. Yawntreshia Coleman. I am on TikTok at MCFT Picnics, and LinkedIn.
Cool.
So yeah, I have a page for both the picnic business and Coleman and Company, and also my LinkedIn professional profile is public as well.
Sweet. Great things to do. The picnic, kids' birthday parties, possibly.
Yeah, I have not had I did one for my middle child, but I have not had anybody book me for a kid's birthday party.
Anniversaries.
Yes,
birthdays,
I've done a lot of birthdays, a lot of anniversaries. Yeah, I would love to get into the kids business though.
That's good.
Especially.
That's good business. That's a good business. And you think that you probably could do it cheaper than some of the kids attraction things compared to, you know, I mean, if you go to the bowling alley, you're spending $500.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So you might be able to get in a little cheaper, and it's a unique experience. So cool. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. I had a great time. Everybody be kind to each other out there. This is Burn the Ship.
All right.
Cool. That was awesome. Yeah, you did great.